The valley smelled like death. Commander Yuna stood at its center, her boots sinking into mud made from blood and dirt. All around her, the bodies of her soldiers lay broken and still. Their golden armor, once so bright and proud, was now dull and cracked. She had led 200 of the finest warriors in the Kalori Empire into this valley. Now she was the only one left standing. Her spear, the Sunpiercer, lay in 3 pieces at her feet. It had been in her family for 9 generations. Her mother had carried it. Her grandmother before that. Now it was just broken metal, as useless as everything else. Yuna pulled her short blade from her belt. It was a simple weapon, nothing special, but it would have to do. She wiped the violet blood from her forehead and looked at the enemy surrounding her. The Veth horde had come from the dark spaces between stars. Nobody knew where they came from or why they killed. They simply appeared, destroyed everything in their path, and moved on. 3 star systems had fallen to them in the last cycle. Billions of lives, gone like dust in the wind. Now they filled the valley like a pale sea. Thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. Their bodies were long and thin, covered in skin the color of old bones. They had no eyes, but they could see somehow. Their arms ended in blades of natural bone, sharp enough to cut through steel. They made clicking sounds as they moved, like insects talking to each other. The noise filled the air and made Yuna's skin crawl. She was going to die here. She knew this with perfect certainty. But she was Kalori. She had been born for war, trained for war, shaped by war since she could walk. If death was coming, she would meet it with her blade in her hand. The Veth parted, and their leader stepped forward. The Alpha was huge, twice Yuna's height and 3 times her weight. Its blade arms were longer than her whole body, still wet with the blood of her warriors. It had killed 17 of them personally. She had watched it cut through her best fires like they were made of paper dot. It stopped a few steps away from her and tilted its smooth, eyeless head. When it spoke, its voice was like stones grinding together. "You fight well, Golden One." Its common was broken and rough, but she understood it. "Your soldiers died with honor. You should be proud. They died because of you," Yuna said. Her voice was steady. She would not show fear to this creature. Yes, the Alpha made a sound that might have been laughter. "And now you will join them. But do not worry. Your death will be special. I will make it slow. I will savor it." Yuna raised her blade. "Then stop talking and come take it." The Alpha's head tilted the other way. It seemed almost amused. Around it, the other Veth clicked and shifted, hungry for blood. They had been fighting all day, but they were not tired. They were never tired. "Brave," the Alpha said. "Foolish, but brave. I will remember you, Golden One. When your empire burns, I will think of this moment." Yuna did not answer. There was nothing left to say. She shifted her weight, found her balance, and prepared to die. Then the sky broke open. It was not thunder. Yuna knew thunder. This was something else entirely. A sound so loud it hurt. A flash so bright it burned spots into her vision. She looked up and saw fire streaking down from the clouds, moving faster than anything she had ever seen. The Veth scattered like insects fleeing a torch. Even the Alpha stumbled backward, its blade arms raised to protect its head. The impact shook the ground. Dirt and stone flew in every direction. A wave of heat washed over Yuna, and she had to shield her face with her arm. When she lowered it, she saw the crater. It was not large, maybe 10 steps across. Smoke rose from its edges. At its center, something moved. A figure pulled itself up from the broken ground. It stood slowly, unsteadily, like someone waking from a long sleep. Smoke curled around it, hiding details, showing only a shape. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. The smoke cleared. Yuna stared. It was a human. She had seen humans before, but only in pictures and videos during her academy training. They were a young species, barely 1,000 years into space travel. Their homeworld was small and distant, a blue and green ball orbiting a yellow star. They were not known for their strength or their technology or their wisdom. They were known for being strange. This one looked exactly like the pictures. Tall for its kind, with dark hair matted against its head by sweat. Its skin was a warm brown, darker than Kalori pale blue. It wore some kind of suit torn and burned in several places. Blood ran from a wound on its arm, bright red against the dark fabric. It carried nothing but a metal rod, perhaps salvage from whatever ship had brought it here. The ship itself was nowhere to be seen. Destroyed in the fall, most likely. The human looked around. It saw the bodies. It saw the blood. It saw the thousands of Veth surrounding the valley on every side. Then it looked at Yuna, and it smiled. Not a nervous smile. Not a frightened smile. It was the smile of someone who had found exactly what they were looking for. "Hey," the human said. Its voice was casual, relaxed, as if it had not just fallen from the sky into the middle of a massacre. "Name's Taiho. What's going on here?" Yuna could not find words. Her mind was struggling to understand what she was seeing. "You are surrounded," she finally managed. "We are both going to die." The human, Taiho, looked around again. He counted the Veth, or seemed to. His smile did not fade. If anything, it grew wider. "Yeah, that's a lot of them," he said. He rolled his shoulders and adjusted his grip on the metal rod. "But I've had worse days, probably." The Alpha recovered from its shock. It let out a shriek of rage, a sound that echoed off the valley walls. The Veth began to close in again, slower now, cautious of this strange new arrival. Taiho looked at Yuna one more time. "So," he said, "mind if I join the fight?" Yuna opened her mouth to answer, but before she could speak, the human was already moving. He walked toward the Veth horde like a man walking into a light rain, his metal rod swinging loosely at his side, and he was still smiling. Yuna had trained with the finest warriors in the Kalori Empire. She had studied under masters who had fought in 100 battles. She had seen skill and grace and deadly precision from soldiers who had dedicated their entire lives to the art of killing. She had never seen anything like Taiho. The human did not fight like a warrior. He did not use forms or stances or any technique she could recognize. He fought like an animal, like something wild and hungry that had been set loose among prey. The first Veth that reached him swung its blade arm in a wide arc. It was a killing blow, perfectly aimed at his neck. Taiho ducked under it so close that the blade cut some of his hair. Before the creature could pull back, he drove his metal rod into its throat with both hands. The Veth dropped. 2 more came at him from different sides. He kicked one in what passed for its knee, and the joint bent the wrong way with a wet snap. The other one slashed at his chest. He twisted, and the blade only cut air. His rod came around in a short, brutal swing and caved in the side of the creature's head. 3 dead in less than 10 seconds. The Veth horde surged forward, all of them at once. There were too many. No one could fight that many enemies at the same time. It was impossible. Taiho did it anyway. He moved through them like water through rocks, never stopping, never slowing. When they came from the front, he went low. When they came from the sides, he spun between them. When they came from behind, he was already somewhere else. And he was laughing, not mad laughter, not cruel laughter. It was the sound of someone having fun. The sound of someone doing exactly what they were born to do. Yuna watched, frozen in place, unable to look away. She had studied humans in the academy. Every Kalori officer learned about the other species in the galaxy, their strengths and weaknesses, their history and culture. The section on humans had been short. They were not considered important, but she remembered one phrase from the texts. Persistent predators. Humans had evolved on a harsh world full of creatures faster and stronger than them. They had no claws, no fangs, no armor. What they had was something stranger. They could keep going when other species stopped. They could take damage that would kill others and simply refuse to die. Their bodies produced chemicals during stress. The texts had explained adrenaline, endorphins, natural drugs that blocked pain and increased strength and pushed them beyond their normal limits. Other species needed medicine for such effects. Humans made it themselves. Una had thought it was exaggeration. Propaganda, maybe, or old legends dressed up as science. She had been wrong. A Veth blade caught Taiho across his ribs. She saw the blood spray, saw the wound open up red and raw. He did not slow down. He did not even flinch. He grabbed the arm that had cut him, pulled the creature off balance, and drove his rod through its eye socket. Another blade found his thigh. He grunted, just a small sound, and then he used the wounded leg to kick the attacker so hard it flew backward into 3 others. Blood covered him now. Some of it was his. Most of it was not. His flight suit hung in torn strips. His face was a mask of red and white and sweat. But his eyes were bright, alive, learning with something Una could not name. He was enjoying this. The thought made her shiver in a way the cold never had. The Veth began to hesitate. They were not used to prey that fought back. They were not used to anything that killed them this easily. Their clicking grew louder, more frantic. Some of them started to pull back. Taiho did not let them. He pressed forward, always forward, never giving them space to think or plan. His metal rod bent from the impacts, and he threw it aside. His hands found a fallen Veth's blade arm, torn from its body, and he picked it up like it was a sword made for him. The killing continued. Una finally forced herself to move. She was a commander. She was Kellory. She would not stand and watch while someone else fought her battle. She raised her short blade and ran toward the fight. A Veth turned toward her, clicking in hunger. She cut its arm off at the joint, then opened its throat with a backhand slash. Another came from her left. She dropped under its strike and drove her blade up through its chin dot. It felt good. It felt right. The numbness that had filled her since her army fell was gone, replaced by something hot and sharp and alive. She found herself moving toward Taiho, cutting through every creature that stood in her way. He saw her coming and shifted to give her room. For a moment, their eyes met. He was still smiling. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead, running into his eyes, but he did not seem to notice. "Not bad," he said, breathing hard. "You know how to use that thing." "I have trained since I could walk," she said. She blocked a strike, countered, killed. Shows. He ducked under a swing, came up inside the creature's guard, and broke its neck with his bare hands. "We need to move. Get to high ground. That ridge over there." He pointed with his stolen blade. Una looked. It was maybe 200 steps away, up a rocky slope. Easy to defend. Hard to attack. "There are too many between us and there," she said. "Then we go through them." He laughed again, that wild, free sound. "Come on, Commander. Let's show these things what we can do." He started moving before she could answer. Not running, not walking. Something in between. A predator's pace. She followed, and together they began to cut their way toward the ridge. The Veth came at them in waves. They died in waves. Una lost track of how many she killed. 10, 20, more. Her arms grew tired, but she kept swinging. Her legs burned, but she kept moving. Beside her, Taiho was a constant presence. He covered her blind spots without being told. He pulled her back from strikes she did not see coming. He pushed forward when she slowed. He fought like someone who had done this 100 times. 1,000 times. Like violence was a language, and he spoke it better than anyone she had ever met. They were halfway to the ridge. When the Alpha finally moved out, it came through its own soldiers like a ship through water, shoving them aside with its massive arms. Its eyeless face turned toward Taiho, and it let out a sound of pure rage. "Human," it said, the word dripping with hate. "You will suffer for this." Taiho stopped. He looked at the Alpha, at its size, at its blade arms, still wet with Kalori blood. Then he laughed. "Buddy," he said, "bigger things than you have tried." He raised his stolen blade and walked toward the monster. The Alpha was fast for something so big it came at Taiho like a storm, both blade arms swinging in wide arcs that could cut a man in half. Taiho threw himself backward, and the blades passed so close to his chest that they tore the front of his suit open. He rolled to his feet and moved sideways, circling, keeping distance. The Alpha followed, clicking in rage. Around them, the other Veth formed a circle, watching. They wanted to see their leader kill this strange creature that had fallen from the sky. Yuna tried to move forward, to help, but the lesser Veth blocked her path. She cut one down, then another, but more took their place. They were keeping her away on purpose. "Taiho!" she shouted. "Little busy." He shouted back. The Alpha struck again. This time, Taiho did not dodge. He stepped into the attack, inside the arc of the blade, and drove his stolen weapon into the creature's side. It sank deep, and pale blood sprayed. The Alpha screamed. Its other arm came around in a backhand that caught Taiho in the chest and threw him 10 steps through the air. He hit the ground hard, rolling through the mud and blood. He did not get up immediately. For a horrible moment, Yuna thought he was dead. Then he laughed. He pushed himself up on shaking arms, coughed blood onto the ground, and laughed like he had just heard the funniest thing in his life. "Okay," he said, getting to his feet. "That one hurt." The Alpha pulled the blade from its side and threw it aside. The wound was deep, but it was still standing, still moving, still dangerous. "You cannot kill me, human," it said. "I have fought armies. I have destroyed worlds. You are nothing, maybe." Taiho spat blood and raised his fists. He had no weapon now, nothing but his bare hands. "But I'm still standing, and I'm not done yet." He charged. Yuna had never seen anything so stupid. He was wounded, tired, unarmed. The Alpha was twice his size and armed with blades that could cut through steel. There was no way he could win. He was not trying to win. Taiho ducked under the first swing and punched the Alpha in its wound. The creature shrieked in pain. He punched it again, driving his fist deep into the torn flesh, and grabbed something inside Dot. Then he pulled. Something ripped. The Alpha screamed louder than before, a sound of pure agony. It staggered backward, pale blood pouring from the wound that was now much bigger than it had been. Taiho stood there, holding something wet and dark in his hand. He threw it on the ground and wiped his hand on what was left of his suit. "You were saying?" he asked. The Alpha fell to its knees. It tried to speak, but only a wet gurgle came out. Its blade arms twitched once, twice, and then when still it was dead. The Veth around them stopped clicking. For a long moment, nothing moved. Every creature in the valley was staring at the human who had killed their leader with his bare hands. Then they ran, not all of them. Some still wanted to fight, but many of them simply turned and fled, disappearing into the growing darkness. The death of the Alpha had broken something in them, some belief that they could not lose. Taiho watched them go. He was swaying on his feet, barely able to stand. When Yuna finally cut her way to his side, she had to catch his arm to keep him from falling. "Hey," he said, his voice weak. "We should get to that ridge now, before the brave ones come back. Can you walk?" "I can try." He could walk, but barely. Yuna kept her hand on his arm as they climbed the rocky slope to the ridge. The remaining Veth did not follow. They seemed confused, lost without their leader to guide them. When they reached the top, Taiho collapsed against a large rock and slid down to sit on the ground. His eyes were half closed, and his breathing was shallow and rough. Yuna knelt beside him and looked at his wounds. The cut on his ribs was deep, still bleeding. The puncture in his thigh had stopped bleeding, but looked bad. There were bruises everywhere, dark purple marks spreading under his skin. "You should be dead," she said. "Probably." He did not open his eyes. "Not the first time someone's told me that. I need to treat these wounds. Later. We need to watch for attacks first." He was right. Yuna stood and looked down at the valley. The Veth were gathering again, but they stayed at a distance. They watched the ridge like wolves watching a fire, hungry but afraid. "They will attack again," she said. "I know." Taiho opened his eyes. "But not tonight. They need to pick a new leader first. That takes time. We have until morning, maybe." "How do you know this?" "I fought them before. Different world, couple years back. Ugly business." He tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace of pain. "Lost a lot of friends that day. Learned a lot about how they think." Yuna sat down beside him. Her own body was screaming with exhaustion and pain, but she ignored it. She had been trained to ignore it. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different than before, softer, sadder. "I saw you standing alone against an army," he said. "I saw your soldiers dead around you, your weapon broken. And I saw you raise your blade anyway. Ready to fight. Ready to die." He turned his head to look at her. In the fading light, his eyes were very dark. "I couldn't just watch that," he said. "I couldn't let someone that brave die alone." Yuna did not know what to say. "In the Calori Empire, you fought for duty, for honor, for your people and your leaders and the glory of your house. You did not fight for strangers. You did not risk your life for someone you had never met. But this human had done exactly that. He had crashed down from the sky and immediately chosen to die beside someone he did not know. Not for duty, not for honor, just because he wanted to die." It was the strangest thing she had ever encountered. "Thank you," she said finally. The words felt small, not enough, but they were all she had. Taiho's smile came back, weaker than before, but real. "Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive the night. And tomorrow. And however long it takes for someone to find us." He closed his eyes again. "Get some rest if you can," he said. "I'll take first watch. You can barely stay awake. I've done more with less." He patted the rock beside him. "Sit down, Commander. We're going to need our strength." Yuna sat. She did not sleep, could not sleep, but she rested. And as the last light faded from the sky, she watched the human beside her and wondered what kind of creatures could produce something like him. The texts had called them persistence predators. She was starting to think they had not gone far enough. The Veth attacked at dawn. They came up the ridge in waves, hundreds of them at once. Yuna and Taiho met them at the narrow path where the slope was steepest. It was good ground, easy to defend. The creatures could only come at them a few at a time. Taiho had found a new weapon during the night, a long piece of metal from some destroyed vehicle at the bottom of the valley. It was heavier than his first rod, but stronger. He swung it like a club, breaking bones and crushing skulls with every blow. Yuna fought beside him, her short blade dancing in the morning light. She had slept a little during the night, just enough to take the edge off her exhaustion. Her wounds still hurt, but she pushed the pain away and focused on the fight. The first wave broke against them like water against a rock. Bodies tumbled back down the slope, and the clicking of the Veth grew louder with anger and confusion. "They really don't learn," Taiho said during the brief pause between attacks. "They are not intelligent the way we are," Yuna said. "They follow instinct more than thought. The Alpha was different, but most of them are simply hungry." "Hungry?" Taiho laughed, though there was no humor in it. "That's one word for it." The second wave came. Then the third. Then Yuna lost count. Time became strange. There was only the next enemy, the next strike, the next kill. Her blade grew dull from use. Her arm ached from the endless swinging. But she kept fighting because stopping meant dying. Taiho was always there, a constant presence at her side. He moved slower than before, his wounds from yesterday slowing him down. But he would not stop. He would not rest. Every time she thought he might fall, he found some new strength and kept going. He fought like someone who had nothing to lose. Like someone who had decided that this ridge was where he would make his stand, and nothing in the universe could move him from it. The bodies began to pile up. First a few, then dozens, then so many that they formed a wall around the narrow path. The Veth had to climb over their own dead to reach the defenders. Some of them hesitated. Some of them turned back. But others kept coming, driven by rage or hunger or something else that Yuna could not understand. By midday, the attacks had slowed. The Veth pulled back to the valley floor and watched from a distance. They were picking a new leader, Taiho said, fighting among themselves to see who would take command. "How long?" Yuna asked. "A few hours, maybe. They'll attack again before sunset. One big push to try and finish us. Can we survive it?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. He sat against the same rock as before, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Blood had soaked through the makeshift bandages they had made from his torn suit. "I don't know," he said finally, "but we're going to try." Yuna sat beside him. Her own wounds were lighter than his, but she was exhausted in a way she had never felt before. Every muscle in her body screamed for rest. "Tell me about your world," she said. Taiho looked at her with surprise. "What? Your world, Earth. I know only what the Academy taught us, and that was not much. Tell me what it is really like." He was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant. "It's small," he said finally. "Just one planet around one star. Nothing special compared to your empire. The gravity is heavy, the weather is violent, and half the things that live there can kill you. It sounds harsh. It is." He smiled, a small and tired thing. "But it's beautiful too. Blue oceans that cover most of the surface. Green forests that go on forever. Mountains so tall they touch the clouds. And the sunsets." His voice softened. "The sunsets are something else. The sky turns colors you wouldn't believe, and for a few minutes everything is golden and pink and perfect." Yuna tried to picture it. A small world, harsh and beautiful, producing creatures like the one beside her. "Why did you leave?" she asked. "I didn't choose to, at first. I was military, part of the exploration corps. They sent me out to the outer reach to help map new systems." He paused. "Then the war started. Different war, different enemy. I fought in that for 3 years. When it ended, I couldn't go home. Too much had changed. I had changed. So you became a wanderer. Something like that. I take jobs where I can find them. Transport, security, sometimes things that aren't exactly legal. I was on my way to a station in the next system when my ship got caught in the gravity well of this planet. The engine failed, and I had to eject." He shrugged. "You know the rest." Yuna thought about this. A soldier without a war, a wanderer without a home. She understood that feeling better than she wanted to admit. "My fleet was destroyed 2 days ago," she said. 12 ships, 6,000 soldiers. The Veth ambushed us in the system's edge and tore us apart. I gathered what survivors I could and brought them here, to this valley. I thought we could hold until reinforcements arrived. And the reinforcements? They're not coming. The High Council has written off this system. They are pulling back to the inner worlds, building defenses there. Her voice was bitter. We were abandoned, left here to die so that others might have time to prepare. Taiho did not say anything for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. I'm sorry. Do not be. It is the way of things. The Empire is old and tired. It has been dying for centuries. The Veth are simply the latest disease eating at its corpse. That's a dark way to look at it. It is an honest way. She looked at him. You must think us foolish, fighting for an empire that has already given up on us. Taiho shook his head. I think you're brave. You could have run. You could have surrendered. But you didn't. You stood your ground and fought, even when there was no hope. That's not foolish. You trailed off, searching for the word. Human? Yuna suggested. He laughed. A real laugh this time. Yeah, I guess it is. The sound of clicking rose from the valley below. They both looked and saw the Veth gathering again. A new alpha had emerged, smaller than the first, but surrounded by the largest warriors. Here they come, Taiho said. He pushed himself to his feet with a groan. One more time. Yuna stood beside him. She looked at the approaching horde, at the hundreds of creatures that would soon be trying to kill them. Then she looked at Taiho, at this strange human who had chosen to die beside her. If we do not survive this, she said, I want you to know that I am glad you fell from the sky. Taiho smiled. Me too, Commander. Me too. He raised his weapon. She raised hers, and together they went to meet the enemy. The final battle lasted until sunset. The Veth came at them with everything they had. The new Alpha led the charge, screaming orders in its clicking language. Hundreds of pale bodies surged up the ridge, climbing over their dead, their blade arms hungry for blood. Yuna and Taiho held the line. They fought back to back when the creatures surrounded them. They fought side by side when the attacks came from the front. They moved together like they had trained together for years, each one covering the weaknesses of the other. Taiho took more wounds. A slash across his back. A cut on his face that left blood running into his eyes. He ignored them all, his body running on something beyond simple strength. The fire in his eyes never dimmed. Yuna's blade finally broke in the chest of a Veth warrior. She pulled a blade arm from a fallen enemy and kept fighting with that instead. Her hands blistered from the unfamiliar grip, but she did not stop. She could not stop. The new Alpha reached them as the sun touched the horizon. It was faster than the first one, more careful. It studied Taiho for a long moment before attacking, learning from its predecessor's mistakes. Taiho did not give it time to think. He threw his heavy metal rod at the creature's head. The Alpha dodged, but the distraction worked. Taiho was already moving, closing the distance. He grabbed one of the creature's blade arms and pulled it off balance. Yuna was there in the same moment. Her stolen blade found the gap in the creature's natural armor, the soft spot under its arm. She drove it deep, twisted, and pulled it out again. The Alpha fell. This time, the Veth did not just hesitate. They broke. The whole horde turned and fled, pouring down the ridge and across the valley and into the darkness beyond. Their clicking faded into the distance until there was nothing left but silence. Yuna stood in the middle of the battlefield, surrounded by bodies, and tried to understand what had just happened. They had won. Somehow, impossibly. They had won. She turned to look for Taiho and found him lying on the ground. He was not moving. Taiho! She dropped beside him, her hands searching for wounds, for breath, for any sign of life. His eyes opened. He smiled weakly. "Hey," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "Did we get them?" "Yes." Relief flooded through her, so strong it made her dizzy. "Yes, we got them. They are gone. Good." His eyes closed again. "I'm just going to rest for a minute." He passed out. Before she could respond, the next 3 days were the longest of Yuna's. She treated Taiho's wounds as best she could with nothing but torn cloth and water from a stream at the bottom of the valley. She dragged him to shelter when it rained. She sat beside him when the fever came, watching his body fight against infection. Humans were tough, she learned. Tougher than any species she had ever heard of. His wounds should have killed him twice over, but his body refused to give up. It fought the infection with the same stubborn determination he had shown in battle. On the second day, he woke up long enough to eat some of the ration bars she had found in the wreckage of his ship. On the third day, he was sitting up and making jokes about her cooking. "This tastes like engine grease," he said. "You are lucky to have anything at all. I know." He smiled at her. "Thank you for keeping me alive." She did not know how to respond to that. Among her people, you did not thank someone for doing their duty. But this human did not operate by Kalori rules. "You would have done the same for me," she said finally. True. He looked out at the valley, at the bodies still lying where they had fallen. "What happens now?" "I have been sending distress signals since the battle ended. Someone will come eventually, and if that someone is more Veth, then we fight again." Taiho laughed. It hurt him, she could tell, but he laughed anyway. "I was hoping you'd say that." The rescue came on the morning of the 4th day. A Kalori patrol ship appeared over the ridge, its golden hull bright against the blue sky. It landed at the bottom of the valley, and soldiers in golden armor poured out, their weapons ready. They found Yuna and Taiho sitting on the ridge, watching them come. Neither of them tried to stand. They were too tired for that. The patrol commander was a young officer named Jiwoo. She looked at the battlefield with wide eyes, counting the bodies, trying to understand what she was seeing. "Commander Yuna," she said, "we received your signal. We expected to find less." "Life is full of surprises," Yuna said. Jiwoo's eyes moved to Taiho. "And this is?" "A friend." The word felt right. Strange, but right. They were brought aboard the ship and given medical treatment. Proper treatment with real medicine and doctors who knew what they were doing. Taiho's wounds were serious, but not deadly. He would recover fully, they said. While the doctors worked, Yuna sat beside his bed and thought about what came next. The Empire was dying. She had said so herself. The Veth would keep coming, and the old leaders would keep retreating. And eventually, there would be nowhere left to run, unless something changed. She looked at Taiho, at this human who had fallen from the sky and chosen to fight beside a stranger. He had done it because he wanted to, because he refused to watch someone brave die alone. That kind of spirit was rare. That kind of courage was worth more than fleets of ships. "Come with me," she said. He opened his eyes. "Where?" "To my homeworld. The High Council will want to know what happened here. They will want to meet the human who killed 2 Veth Alphas with his bare hands." "Not bare hands. I had a metal rod for part of it. Details." She leaned forward. "After that, I will need to rebuild my command. I will need warriors I can trust. People who fight because they choose to, not because they are ordered to." Taiho studied her face for a long moment. "You're serious." "I am. You want me to join your military, help you fight a war against an enemy that has already destroyed 3 star systems?" "Yes." "That's insane. You fell from the sky into a valley full of monsters and asked if you could join the fight. You do not get to call me insane." He laughed, and this time it did not seem to hurt as much. "Fair point." He was quiet for a while, thinking. Yuna did not push. She had made her offer. The rest was up to him. My grandmother used to tell me stories, he said finally. Old legends from Earth. Heroes who fought monsters and saved kingdoms and did impossible things. I always thought they were just stories. Just dreams. And now? Now I'm starting to think maybe they were instructions. He met her eyes. All right, Commander. Let's go save an empire. Yuna smiled. It still felt strange on her face, but less strange than before. Welcome to the Kalori fleet. Taiho of Earth. The official records would later note that. The Battle of the Valley of Bones marked a turning point in the war. Against the Veth Horde, they would credit Commander Yuna's tactical brilliance and her unwavering courage. They would make only a passing mention of the human dot, but in the song sung by soldiers around campfires, in the legends whispered by children in the dark, the truth lived on. They spoke of a warrior who fell from the sky into a battle she should not have survived. They spoke of a stranger who chose to fight beside her, not for duty or honor or glory, but simply because he could not stand to watch bravery die alone. They spoke of a monster who laughed on, and they spoke of how that monster helped save them all.